the Divorced Girl Smiling Podcast with your host, Jackie Pilosoff.
No one should have to go through a divorce feeling alone and isolated. That's why I created the Divorced Girl Smiling Podcast. Every show is 30 minutes, and the guests are my Divorced Girl Smiling trusted professionals. They're so wonderful. Financial advisors, divorce attorneys, mediators, divorce coaches, therapists, and more. We talk about every subject that you can even think of having to do with divorce. The podcast is meant to empower you and inspire you and make you feel really, really confident so that you can have a good divorce outcome and a great post-divorce life. You can find the Divorced Girl Smiling Podcast pretty much anywhere podcasts can be found, and always at divorcedgirlsmiling.com. So grab a cup of coffee or a glass of wine and start smiling. Before we get started, I want to address something. In a divorce, who keeps the dog? It might or might not surprise you to know that this is a huge issue in so many divorce cases. The thought of losing your dog in a divorce can feel devastating, painful, and extremely stressful. And this issue is the driving force behind Who Keeps the Dog, a company that was founded by Karis Nafty, who is a dog and pet mediator and a custody specialist. She's been doing this for 25 years, and her mission is to help people find solutions in pet custody situations that make families happy, but that also help the dog feel secure, happy, and stay well behaved. If you want to learn more about Karis and Who Keeps the Dog, just go to whokeepsthedog.com. I also want to tell you about a wonderful real estate agent if you live in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. Her name is Shannon Lindstrom, and she's been a realtor for RE/MAX for several years, but she's also a certified divorce real estate expert. Shannon is so good at what she does. She has a focus in helping people facing divorce sell or buy your home. Love her, trust her a lot. If you want to learn more, you can find her at mnrealestatedivorceexpert.squarespace.com. And you can also find both Shannon and Karis in the Trusted Professional section of Divorced Girl Smiling. When I was getting divorced, I just didn't feel like myself. I mean, nobody feels like themselves. I truly think when you're getting divorced, you become a different person temporarily. You might be short-tempered, angry, pessimistic. Maybe you're a really optimistic person, but during your divorce, everything feels like doom and gloom. It's understandable. What we're going to talk about today is how to be your best self in divorce. And I have the best guest for this because she wrote an article called How to Be Your Best Self in Divorce, and she has personal stories of clients who she helped become their best selves in a divorce. And then we're going to get into the benefits, all the wonderful benefits of being your best self in divorce. My guest is divorce attorney Sharon Oberst-Stafala. Sharon works in Norwalk, Connecticut, and surrounding areas. She's been a divorce lawyer for 33 years. She's also a mediator. And hi, Sharon.
Hey, Jackie. I'm so happy.
So nice to have you here. And I'm really excited about this because I want to tell my listeners we had this whole what we're going to talk about conversation. And I'm so excited to get to the real conversation.
Thank you. Me too. This is great.
Just really inspiring. You're not like a lot of other divorce attorneys who say, don't get emotional, this is a business. But in your opinion, don't you feel like you have to make it a little personal to have a better outcome?
Yeah, it's a perfect way of putting it. Thank you. It's nobody gets divorced without emotion. It's not whether or not the emotion exists. It's how you're owning your own emotion, what you're doing with the emotion, where the emotion sneaks in or gets embraced, right? It's all always there. And there are times when what appears to be an inappropriate emotion, right? I don't want people screaming at each other. I don't want people swearing at each other. I don't want people all shut off, right? All that kind of negative emotion interfering with them getting to the bottom line. But me telling them to pack it up and keep it outside doesn't necessarily get rid of it. Letting them, helping them process the parts that need to get processed, whether with me, with outside therapists, whatever it is, then you can get to the part where it's supposed to be. You get 3 train cars, I get 3 train cars, right? Like the little things of it. The things are just the things.
All right. Now, when people come to see you, do you think that they hire you because they like this attitude and they like, is your niche trying to help people get divorced in a healthy way? I mean, as healthy as possible. We understand the realities that it's hurtful, there's a lot of anger and resentment, but help people get divorced in the best possible outcome so both people walk away thinking that it's fair, and more importantly, realizing that their relationship isn't over if they have kids, and they will have to be in each other's lives for a very long time, almost even forever.
I would say, first of all, yes, I agree with what you're saying. But even if you don't have kids, every relationship you have ever had, romantic or otherwise, still impacts how you live your life. We never fully lose somebody with whom we've interacted. And wherever we leave that relationship is what we carry forward with us. Right? Like, just think of your own bosses or parents or siblings or breakups or all the things. There's some of it that always resonates through us. We are different afterwards than we are before. And therefore, it's in nobody's best interest more so than our own to make the relationship as healthy as we can.
Wow, Sharon, you sound so much like the interviews I do with therapists and divorce coaches. And that, like I said, is very unusual in a divorce attorney. And I could see how you would have really good outcomes because of this attitude and your whole way of doing business. I love this. Okay, let's start off with when people are getting divorced, why are they not their best selves? What are some things going on that make them not their best selves?
So, right, all the words wanna come at the same time, right? There's the pressure from our families that we must be failing at something, or from our friends, or the expectations in our neighborhoods. There's the guilt, there's the fears my inner child had from the minute I met this person are all coming to fruition, and I'm mad at myself for not seeing the red flags. I'm never gonna be able to survive this thing, I'm gonna be broke and homeless for the rest of my life. I'm being alienated from my children intentionally, like all of it. And all of it has an amount of validity to it. None of it can actually completely be dismissed. And therefore, you can't get rid of it wholly. You have to be able to let it be true and let it also be only one of the pieces that's true, right? Yeah, I'm going to lose some money. I'm not going to have the same two income household where everybody makes the same amount of money and we get richer every day. That won't be your reality anymore. But it doesn't mean, therefore, I'll be destitute. There's so much world between those two extremes. And so, yeah, there's fear, there's anger, there's shame, but all of it doesn't have to be 100%.
And I tend to go with that worst case scenario. My mind goes right there, and you can't do that. You have to just say, okay, it's not going to be there. I'm going to have to give up some things, but it's all going to work out because everything always works out. So it's hard not to go to that extreme, but you have to try not to. And the other thing I was going to say is a lot of women will say to me, he took the best years of my life. I'm 45 now. Who's gonna want me? And I'm thinking I'd give anything to be 45. But I mean, that's so young, in my opinion. You have so much more time. Even if you're in your 50s or 60s, you have time. I just wrote a whole piece on the importance, and your biggest asset is time. You have time as long as you're still alive. You have time. And so people will not be their best selves because they're bitter about that. They're saying, I wasted all this time with this man who cheated on me and, was a terrible husband or whatever. So that's another reason. And also you don't like yourself because you think, how could I have waited this long? I should have done this 10 years ago.
People are their angriest when they're angry at themselves. Right? Like, I wanna project all of this self-loathing onto that person because I'm so mad at I didn't see the red flags, or I didn't act fast enough, or I let myself go to pot, or whatever crazy thing they wanna tell themselves. They're mad at themselves, and so they act out and try to put it on the other person.
100%. You're listening to the Divorced Girl Smiling podcast. My name is Jackie Pilosoff, and I'm your host. Today, I'm here with divorce attorney Sharon Oberst DeFalla out of Norwalk, Connecticut. And Sharon has been a divorce attorney for 33 years. She's also a mediator. Sharon and I are talking about how to be your best self in divorce. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, Sharon is going to tell this story about one of her clients who was his best self in divorce that is going to make you feel so inspired and happy and hopeful about your own situation. And then we're going to give you tips on how to be your best self in divorce and after. We'll be right back. I want to tell you about two Divorced Girl Smiling trusted professionals who are really wonderful at what they do. The first one is therapist Julie Walton. Julie is an LCPC. She's also a divorce mediator, and she's the founder of North Shore Reach. I've known Julie for a few years now, and I completely trust her and think she's a great therapist. Before getting into her own private practice and specializing in divorce, she spent many years working with women who were victims of domestic violence and those who suffered from trauma, depression, and other emotional illnesses. If you want to learn more about Julie, just go to northshorereach.com. I also want to tell you about certified divorce coach Justin Milrad. And Justin is the founder of his practice, Reclaim and Reboot. He has so much experience in the mental health field. In fact, he co-founded the nonprofit organization called the Blue Dove Foundation, and that was dedicated to helping people with mental health and addiction issues. And then Justin got divorced. So he has both a professional experience and personal experience when it comes to helping men and women through a divorce. He also just came out with a book. It is amazing, and there's a workbook to go with it. So if you want to learn more about Justin, you can find him at reclaimandreboot.me. And you can find both Justin and Julie in the Trusted Professional section of Divorced Girl Smiling. Welcome back to the Divorced Girl Smiling podcast. My name is Jackie Pilosoff, and I'm your host. And today we're talking about how to be your best self in divorce. My guest is Sharon Oberst DeFalla, divorce attorney and founder of her practice, Oberst Law. It's actually Oberst DeFalla Law. And if you want to find out more about Sharon or have a consult with her, you can find her at oberstlaw.com. Oh, and Sharon can also do your will and estate plan after your divorce is final. So
True.
that's good too. Okay. Tell us this great story about this guy. He was a police officer. He was one of your clients. He got divorced and, in your opinion, showed up as his best self.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for reminding me about him. He was a very smart, calm man, and I really enjoyed working with him. And the divorce itself was not a remarkable divorce. There wasn't a lot of fighting. I only represented one party. I didn't mediate them, but I also didn't exacerbate it. And we were fortunate that opposing counsel didn't exacerbate it either. So we didn't make their lives worse. And then time went by and I saw him, and it was after the youngest child had turned 18, no longer a minor child, therefore no longer eligible in our state for child support. And alimony was over. I don't remember now if he had paid a particular period of time or not, but all of his financial orders, the court ordering him that he has to pay these amounts, had ended when I saw him. And I asked him how things were going, and he told me he still saw her every week when he dropped off his alimony payment. And I felt terrible. "Oh, no, did I not tell you that your order was ending?" Right? "Let me go find the papers. What happened here?" And he said, "Oh, no, no. Just because the time went by doesn't mean she doesn't need the money anymore. Of course I'm gonna keep paying her." And I was so just moved by him and by that, and the fact that he didn't see his ex-wife as an enemy out there in the world, but as somebody who's part of his world and part of his team and who, of course, he's going to take care of. And that's when the whole conversation came up about what was going on with Thanksgiving. And he said, "We always have the kids for Thanksgiving." And I misunderstood him to mean that he had moved on to a new spouse. Maybe he and his new wife, or whomever, always have the children over. And it was no. He and his ex-wife have these children together, and they spend Thanksgiving together as the family that they are. They are still each other's friends and still each other's companions in certain ways without having to be each other's spouses. And I just found that really inspirational and really just honestly intelligent. Why would one want extra people in the world who don't have their back? So that's my story.
Okay, I have 4 words. I love this guy.
Mhm.
Okay? First of all, you had me at police officer because 'cause I'm a big proponent of the police. Secondly, this man now, if he was giving money to his ex, he probably could afford it, and that is so wonderful. So, I don't want people to think, if you're listening, that, you should be giving your ex what is it they aren't entitled to by law and that everyone's expected to do this. But this is just a big thing. We're also talking about little things you can do to be your best self and acts of kindness, not only for just you being a good person, but think about this family's children and how happy and healthy they are seeing that their father is still giving their mother money because he knows she needs it. Maybe they know, maybe they don't. I'm not sure. But if they're having Thanksgiving dinner together, this is a healthy family. And what a beautiful story and acts of kindness. And I bet you the mother was really sweet too. And
Well,
it
that
just makes me really happy.
right. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that's a big point of this, right? It's not he's obviously not giving money to somebody who's yelling at him every week that the payment is late or that his he ruined her life or that he owes her something. She has to take credit here as well. These are two mature adults, or it wouldn't, or neither one of them could be.
I just love this. So, on to tips where if you're listening to this and you're thinking like, "Well, how do I like myself more? How do I be my best self? I feel terrible about myself right now." And I'm not judging because I wanna say when I was going through a divorce looking back, ugh, I just did not like myself. And if you think about this man and aspire to do things like this is to me the extreme, but even if you are just kind. If it's your ex's birthday, text happy birthday. Why is that so wrong? Like little things like that. It's almost like Sharon, don't you feel like when people get divorced, they feel like you're supposed to hate each other? We've seen all the movies and the media and all the wars out there, and it's almost like it's expected. But Sharon's way of practicing law is no, you don't have to be that way.
No, oh God, no. The opposite. You shouldn't be. It shouldn't even be. There are extreme cases, but it shouldn't be part of our normal culture that we think of divorce as battle between people who have one nest egg, one marital home, one set of children, one set of parents and in-laws. Like, why would those people be pitted against each other? It makes zero sense to me. And I work very hard to make sure that it makes zero sense to everyone I can.
Okay, but what about the guy who walks in to your office and is going to hire you and says, "Okay, you've got a really hard case here. My wife is a total bitch. She's you can't talk to her. We don't get along. I hate her. She's ruined my life. I didn't want this divorce." How can you tell this guy to play kumbaya with his wife?
Yeah, I love that. All right, so several things. Several you gave me so many bites to work with, but I'll start by saying I start with curiosity. Okay? So curiosity is a way of dropping my own decisions about him or his wife and giving him an opportunity to drop his own decisions about him and his wife. So, she's always a bitch. Is she always a bitch? Has there ever been a moment where she wasn't a bitch? Has there ever been one particular moment you want to describe was her at her worst? The other thing that's hilarious in what you said, and it comes up a lot, is that bitch, that jerk, that whatever. I don't want a divorce. He can't divorce me. She can't like, why are you staying married to somebody who you feel that way about? What are you doing here? Right? If you're this angry, if you have got this much resentment and so many negative things to say, I don't want a divorce. Please take that off your list. Yes, you do. You will both be happier when you aren't married.
Well, they're saying it because they're afraid.
Yeah.
Deep down, they want the divorce, but they're afraid of finances, afraid to be alone, afraid of change, afraid of moving, afraid for the kids. I mean, there's a lot to be scared about.
There is. I
But
agree.
staying in the situation is even more scary than the unknown in my
Well, it should be, right? But we're always more comfortable with what we know than what our imagination makes up about what we don't know. So if it's bad enough being married to the person I'm stuck here with, imagine how much worse it will be being alone in this world. And that's again, I use the word curiosity. That's where the beginning of the work starts, where people say, "I'll never be able to afford my own apartment." Oh, how much do apartments cost where you live? I haven't found out. I just decided I can't. Oh, well, why don't we find out how much apartments cost? Let's have some curiosity around that, right? Or I'm going to be off my spouse's medical insurance. They have the best medical insurance. If they divorce me, I'll never have medical insurance again. Okay, let's find out what it would cost to replicate what you have now. And maybe we can't afford to replicate what you have now, but maybe what we can create is something that is sufficient until you get into a better financial situation. A lot of the decisions people make in their own minds out of fear are just what I would call a misuse of their creative imagination.
Okay, now question, when you say, "Oh, let's find out," do you do this with them or you give them homework and say, "I want you to go look up and tell me how much apartments cost?" Because the way you're talking, you're like a coach too. You're a divorce lawyer and a coach, in my opinion. I haven't talked to divorce lawyers who act like this.
It's interesting to me. It depends on the person. I like to give them the homework because I'm expensive per hour and I don't want to I really work to try and keep my legal fees non-invasive in their lives. That's a big part of how I think lawyers should practice. So if they can do the homework on their own, please do. And then if they come back and they need more time or they need more help or they need my paralegal who costs less than I do or whatever we need to do to get them through the hoops over the finish line, we'll do it. But to the extent that they can be adults who are going to take on their own lives, it's important for them to start learning how.
Okay, now also you could say to them, and you might already do this, do you have a good financial planner that you trust? I think you should take your numbers to a financial advisor and do a financial plan. Let's see what you're going to end up with. Then you really know the numbers, so you don't have to be afraid and you're not going to make statements like, "Well, I could never afford this," because you'll know the real truth after you go to a financial advisor.
I do. I have a few with whom I love to work because they help the clients see the what if scenarios. If I have this, can I afford that? If we sell this, how much am I going to, even if I get, there's so many times where one spouse has controlled all of the assets. And even if you get up to 50%, whatever lump sum share, here's 50% of our life savings, you'll be fine, honey. How do I know I'll be fine? I don't earn the kind of money you earn. What do I? So yeah, financial advisors can play a huge role in helping unpack the curiosity and move us away from blind fear into informed decision making, which is really helpful.
Absolutely. And I just have to tell this story. It's kind of, I'm laughing in a nervous way because it's so scary that it was even like this. But a few years after my divorce is when I met the people at Vester Capital, Elaine Moss and Pete Mullins. And they basically, they were like, we really want to do a financial plan with you. And I was like, no, I don't need that. I'm fine. And they were like, no, we really want you to do one with us. And at the time, I wasn't working. I mean, I had Divorce Girl Smiling, but it was sort of like a small new business and it wasn't like a big money maker or anything. It was just uh, um, a passion for me, which it still is. But back then, it was, not like a job. So, we have this thing and they're like, "Well, what do you how do you feel about working?" And I'm like, "Well, my kids are still young, I'm not gonna go back to work." And they were like, "Oh." And they showed me the numbers and it was like I was like, "Oh, I guess I do have to go back to work." It was a very tough conversation. It was hard for me to hear. Was really shocked because I just didn't know what I had. I just didn't even really realize that I was running out of money. I went back to work. We could do a whole podcast on all the benefits that came with going back to work, including, not even the money, just self-worth, appreciating my kids more, being more organized, feeling good about myself, socializing, meeting a whole wonderful group of people, feeling like I had self-worth, all this stuff. And so that's why it's so important not to just make these generalizations like Sharon's saying, like either, "Oh, I don't have to work," or "I can't afford this, I'm gonna be broke." You don't know until you go and have a consultation and learn the numbers. So, and by the way, vestorcapital.com. And they're also Divorce Girl Smiling Trusted Professionals. They're awesome. So I just thought I would throw that out there for people listening who might have those thoughts, Sharon, of what you're saying. Okay, let's touch on a couple more things. How can people become their best selves?
So we all know who our best self is. We've all visited that person. We would all like to visit that person more frequently than we do in all aspects of our lives. And what I have found is I'm going back to the word curiosity because it's what starts the whole chain reaction. When you're curious about somebody else's anger, fear, resentment, your own anger, fear, resentment, questions, concerns, and you use your curiosity as a way of exploring it, you find out a different reality. And then when you can look at somebody else, and I had a couple in here where the mother was so angry at the father that she didn't want him to ever see their child again. She wanted to take away custody completely, which our courts don't do without a valid reason. And the father kept saying, "The reason I'm not seeing him as often as I can or as often as I should is because when I'm depressed, I don't want to be around him and I don't want to infect him with my depression." And she thought he was giving an excuse and she wasn't listening to him. And we had a very difficult conversation in which he unpacked for us, sentence by sentence, word by word, exactly what it feels like to go through electroshock therapy 5 days a week for 4 straight months. How bad it feels, how much it hurts, what it smells like, what it does to your body, what it does to your nervous system, and how it's so extreme because that's what his doctor thought was the only thing that will cure his depression. And she had to have the moment in which she let her curiosity let him tell that whole story was immediately followed by her compassion for him. And the fact that the story she was making up about him not caring was the opposite of the truth. And once we were able to get to that moment, then she's being her best self. He's being his best self because he's finally, frankly, totally honest with her about something that he had been embarrassed about. And over the course of the time we worked together, his depression lightened, his time with his son increased, her time on her own increased and made her happier and stronger and kinder. And then the things about money and him helping to pay for childcare or whatever else just became secondary because they had gotten to the core of where they disagreed with each other.
Now, did this happen in mediation or did it happen in your office with the other both attorneys there? Like when did this happen? Because the problem is that people don't have these conversations.
It was just the three of us. I was their neutral third mediator.
Wow.
They're for themselves. And when when I'm the neutral third mediator, after the parties reach an agreement, I send them to review counsel. I make sure that an attorney looks everything over before we submit it to court. But I'm there to help them find their true agreement with each other. That's very rarely centered in finances once you get to the center of what the actual problems are. And then the finances kind of make more sense after the fact.
Right, because people are not making decisions based on hate and anger because they've had a chance to understand each other, have curiosity, listen to one another. And then once that's all out there, everything changes because now you can really see it as a business because you've already aired all of your grievances.
Yeah, and her fears about she's gonna be alone forever. No, you're not. It's okay. We're working on it, right? Like, and all the pieces. So I feel like curiosity leads to compassion, and compassion leads to kindness. And kindness is the best we can do in a difficult situation, whether it's a divorce, ordering a cup of coffee, walking down the street, right? In our lives, when we can get to our most kind selves, it's what comes back to us. It's what we generate in our world around us. And in something so important and pivotal as one's actual divorce, I can't think of a more important time to access that.
And by the way, if you act with kindness and compassion to your ex, it doesn't mean that you're pretending that the cheating didn't happen or he wasn't mean that one time or he didn't show respect. You're not pretending it didn't happen and you don't have to forget it. There's a reason you're getting divorced. But if you live life looking and focusing on the past instead of now, it you can never really move on, in my opinion.
Somebody I love to listen to, an author I love, is named Michael Singer. And one of the things he talks about is if you had a meal that made you ill, that made you so sick you couldn't finish the meal, your choice is not to bring it home with you and never eat that meal again, or carry it home with you, put it in your refrigerator, and take a bite of it every day for the rest of your life.
I love that. That is such a good analogy. Okay, we have to close because we're going way over, which I'm not surprised. But I want to just tell my listeners a few other tips on being your best self that I wrote down. Do things to precipitate self love. Give back, volunteer, random acts of kindness to strangers. Anything that will make you feel so good about yourself. Think long term and do the random acts of kindness for yourself. Like, in other words, treat your ex with respect and kindness because it will benefit you and it will benefit your kids. You're not really, like people say to me, he doesn't deserve for me to be nice to him. You're not really doing it for him. You're doing it for your kids and you're doing it because you're going to be your best self and you're really going to like yourself. And then try not to be petty, like little nickel and diming things. That just makes people feel bad about themselves. Like, you don't wanna be that cheap person. Just don't. It doesn't matter. And then the last thing I wrote down is Do the right things and karma will work its magic and it will come back to you. Any final thoughts, Sharon?
I love this thought I had for my clients a long time ago, and I bring it back to them as often as I can. Think about your children when they are adults, turning to another adult and saying, "I'm so proud of how my parents handled their divorce." Keep that in mind while you're going through it.
Absolutely love it. Sharon, thank you so much for taking time to be on the show.
Thank you, Jackie. This was fun. Thank you.
If you like what you heard, if you want to talk to Sharon, you can give her a call. She's in Connecticut, or you can go to her website, oberstlaw.com. Her phone number's on there, as well as her email. You can also find Sharon in the Trusted Professional section of Divorced Girl Smiling by going to divorcedgirlsmiling.com. And you can go there to listen to more podcasts, read articles on all different subjects of divorce and dating after divorce, and find other trusted, vetted divorce professionals like Vester Capital, other financial firms, therapists, mediators, real estate agents, and more. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. We'll talk to you real soon.